The top stories tonight in Y News. Amid the soaring prices of fuel products, President Rodrigo Duterte's economic team believes that the proposed suspension of the excise taxes on fuel can threaten the country's recovery from the pandemic.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board has yet to decide on whether or not the petition of transport groups for an increase in minimum fare will be approved.
The Commission on Elections (ONBank) has decided to realign its campaign guidelines with the government's alert level system.
U.S. President Joe Biden imposed an immediate ban on Russian oil and other energy imports in retaliation for the invasion of Ukraine.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, March 9, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Herlene Delgado.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Teo.
First in the news. President Rodrigo Duterte's economic team is taking a conservative route in addressing the economic issues in the country. Department of Trade and Industry Secretary Ramon Lopez reveals that the team is blunt on the proposal to implement fuel tax cut. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
The economic team of the Duterte administration has outlined several measures to cushion the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war, and this was presented to President Rodrigo Duterte last Monday night. However, Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez revealed the temporary suspension of taxes on select petroleum products are not among the steps being considered. This after some lawmakers are considering to suspend certain taxes imposed on oil.
The way to do this, hindi pinag-uusapan, at least in our eco-cluster, hindi pinag-usapan yung excise tax or value-added tax. Kasi nga ito yung pagkukunan natin ng resources, ng pondo para dito sa number one, fuel subsidy, na dinoble pa from 2.5 billion to 5 billion pesos para sa public utility vehicles, mga jeep.
On the other hand, Acting Budget Secretary Tina Rose Canda pointed out the proposal must be thoroughly studied because more government programs will be affected if tax cuts will be implemented.
Ang tatamaan sa pagtanggal ng excise at saka VAT will be yung other social services natin. So yun yung mangyayari. Matutuwa ang isang sektor. Pero siguro mga 3 o 4 na sektor naman ang hindi mapopondohan sa pagtanggal ng excise tax.
Meanwhile, the palace is studying the calls for the declaration of state of economic emergency.
Ito ay masusing pag-aaralan ng palasyo sa pamagitan ng Office of the Executive Secretary at nagpresenta nga kagabi ang economic team ni Pangulo ng proposed government interventions. Kaya tingnan natin kung ang mga ito ay sapat na.
The government is strictly monitoring the situation in Ukraine. According to Andanar, there are specific situations that would result in the declaration of a state of economic emergency, and it may be a full-blown or a world war.
It will require the full cabinet, and it will require the security cluster, the economic cluster, to convene on this, and of course the president will be the one who would chair this meeting.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, has prepared for the relaunching of the service contracting program. The agency confirms its resumption within this month. Asher Kadapan Jr. reports.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, is just waiting for the Department of Budget and Management to release the fund for the service contracting program. It amounts to 7 billion pesos allocated from the General Appropriations Act. LTFRB Executive Director Maria Cristina Cachon explains once the budget is released, the agency is all set to implement anew the program.
Sa kasalukuyan po, no, we are just waiting for the downloading of funds from the DBM. Ang sabi naman po nila, pinoproseso na nila. We are expecting ngayong March po, ma-download na nila at ready na po ang LTFRB po na to implement po ng service contracting program.
Upon the resumption of service contracting, the free ride in public utility vehicles plying the EDSA busway and other corresponding routes will be reactivated. Public commuters express relief in the re-implementation of such aid.
Malaking maitutulong yun kasi sa dami ng sumasakay, tsaka bawas, gastos.
Makakabawas din yan. Conforme din naman sa ruta ng trabaho mo. Kung hindi naman nakaruta doon sana, hindi wala din.
Other passengers, however, ask for long-term solution instead.
Malaking tulong din pero stopgap measures Hindi long-term yung solusyon ng gobyerno. Dapat sana long-term pinaghahandaan.
PUV drivers, on the other hand, favor its re-implementation as it ensures their daily revenue.
Malaking bagay ho sa amin yun mga driver dahil pag service contracting, wala kaming iintindi na pang-gas o pang-boundary, ganun.
Masaya kami kung sakasakaling ibabalik yung service contracting kasi ito lang nahihirapan na rin kami sa panahon ngayon. Nahihirapan na kaming maghanap ng pasahero o nahihirapan na kami sa sitwasyon lalo na patas ng patas yung diesel.
Sa amin naman sir, okay lang naman yung service contracting na yan Wala nang problema kasi kami mga driver, nagsasakripisyo kami para sa pasahero. Sana naman maging maayos yung pagpapasahod sa amin, huwag na maulit yung mga nakaraan.
Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board has yet to decide on the appeal to increase the minimum fare on public transport amid the oil price surge. JP Duñez explains why.
The Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board is considering several factors before granting fare increase for public utility vehicles due to soaring prices of petroleum products. Despite the petition, the LTFRB is still undecided and reviewing the fare increase since it would also make a domino effect among commuters and prices of goods and services.
Hindi po natin sinasabi na hindi natin igagawad, hindi din po natin sinasabi na igagawad natin yung kanilang ibibigay na increase, no? Pero sinasabi natin, pinag-aaralan natin ng mabuti kasama po ang NEDA, inaaral natin dahil sa malaking epekto po nito sa ating ekonomiya, sa ating mga mananakay at sa lahat pa ng sektor.
The LTFRB now looks into other basket of solutions to cushion the impact of continuous oil price hike. Among these are fuel subsidy, service contracting program, and fuel discount among gasoline outlets, which the government is now planning to implement. Meanwhile, a group of jeepney drivers in Quezon City is now planning to cease operations if fuel price continues to increase.
Maaari ho kami nginto kami lahat dahil hindi namin kakayanin yung round trip namin na koleksyon na sa biyahe, sa diesel lang mapupunta. Paano po yung boundary? Pang-uwi sa pamilya, wala na. Magkukontraksyon na lang kami, hindi kaya magbuti. Mangangalakal, dahil yun, walang diesel yun
Pag wala ka nakikita ng panggagawin mo, di baka mag-abono ka pa. Di gagawa ka na lang ng paraan na kung anong pwede mong pagkakakitaan. Yung isang kasama namin, gusto mamundok na lang Doon, walang gasolina ron.
The LTFRB warns PUV drivers and operators of overcharging passengers, saying they may face sanctions. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Energy has started determining reasons behind the soaring prices of gasoline in Boracay that pegged to almost 100 pesos per liter. Lalaine Moreno has the story.
Oil and petroleum products are expected to be more expensive in the coming days as the crisis in Ukraine and Russia worsens. But gasoline prices in Boracay Island reached 96 to 98 pesos per liter. This is higher as compared to the 64 to 70 peso per liter of gasoline in other areas in the country.
Sa Boracay lang, for instance, taas kayo ilang price ito. Last week niya, abot og 98 per liter sa gasoline. Conductor ng inspection dito, ang reason kung ano na itong i-verify sa LGU is ang permitting fees.
The Boracay Local Government Unit referred the matter to the Department of Energy.
Sabi nila, yung company daw na nag-dictate ng presyo kasi may mga constituent kami na nireklamo sa barangay.
The DOE is now investigating the issue and will intensify inspection and price monitoring in some other areas of Visayas.
Atong i-intensify ang ato ang monitoring, inspection, especially sa calibration sa mga dispensing pumps as well as fuel testing sa mga fuel na naa sa mga respective retail outlet stations.
Lelaine Moreno, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Octa research team urges the government to continue monitor the COVID-19 situation in other Asian countries as part of its pandemic management plan. The group also proposes to have an access on the Department of Health's daily COVID-19 case data. Aiko Miguel reports why.
Most countries have eased their travel restrictions, including the Philippines. However, some Asian countries are experiencing COVID-19 resurgence. This is why the Octa research team said the Philippine government should also strictly monitor the COVID-19 situation of countries.
If the virus is able to enter there, the surge will be really, really bad. How do we know that? Kasi yung mga countries like that, which had good pandemic management, very low number of cases. I mean, I'll give an example. South Korea, never had above 5,000. Pero na nagkaroon sila ng surge ng Omicron, umabot sila ng 200,000 per day, which they're having right now. So, may mga other countries pa, of course, in Southeast Asia, that's, syempre, we know about yung Hong Kong, also reaching 50,000 plus cases per day.
Meanwhile, although the health department no longer issue daily COVID-19 case bulletin, the Octa research team is still monitoring the country's case trend. Yesterday, the country only recorded 442 COVID-19 cases. This is the first time since December 28, 2021 that cases fell below 500. Some regions are also now at very low risk classification. However, Octa calls on the DOH to give them access to their daily COVID-19 data, as this will help them report to the public the current COVID-19 situation. Octa believes their role in monitoring the COVID-19 situation will help in the government's COVID-19 response.
If cases are low and we're transparent to them, this trust will benefit us. Lalabas naman sila. The responsibility is transferred to the individual if they want to go out or not. Basta they're advised accordingly. Okay, this is the number of cases, mababa yung cases, mababa yung positivity rate. Although we have plans to exit the pandemic, there's nothing wrong with having the data accessible. And, if we are given access to it, we can work with the data ourselves.
In a statement, Health spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said they are not seeing any increase in COVID-19 cases since they have implemented Alert Level 1 in 39 areas in the country. Undersecretary Vergeres added the government strictly monitors the mobility of the public with incessant reminders on adherence to public health standards, as well as the national vaccination drive for those eligible to get inoculated. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, more schools are expected to begin their physical classes as the Department of Education approves the easing of guidelines to conduct limited face-to-face classes. Janice Inhente reports.
The Department of Education awaits the formal signing of the revised joint guidelines with the Department of Health to implement more relaxed health protocols of limited face-to-face classes. Under the revised guidelines, a school can immediately open limited physical classes once it has passed the DepEd safety assessment tool.
Dahil progressive tayo, as long as na ang school ay maipasa niya yung safety assessment tool natin at makakuha siya ng LGU concurrence na pwede magsimula, anytime pwede siya magsimula.
From the previous community quarantine-based, it was replaced to alert level system, where a school will still be allowed to conduct face-to-face classes even if there are COVID-19 cases in a barangay where the school was placed.
So dati, kapag mayroon isang case ng COVID-19 sa isang barangay, hindi pa pwedeng magsumali ang school sa face-to-face. Ngayon, as long as na ang school ay nasa alert level 1 o 2, pwede po siyang magsimula kahit mayroong case ng COVID sa barangay.
Concurrence of the local government to conduct face-to-face classes is still required, as well as the consent of parents for students that will attend physical classes. Minimum public health standards such as wearing a face mask and physical distancing inside the school and proper ventilation in classrooms will remain mandatory. As of March 5, 6,641 schools have passed DepEd's safety assessment tool, 6,121 of which already returned face-to-face classes. Janice Enhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for those watching our live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. The Commission on Elections, or Comelec Bank, has decided to realign its campaign guidelines to the government's alert level system. Nel Maribohok will tell us why live. Yes, good evening, Nel. Go ahead.
Yes, well, good evening. The Commission on Elections will begin its review on its stringent rules for in-person campaigning. According to Comelec Director Eliza Sabile David, the proposal of newly appointed Commissioner George Erwin Garcia to revisit the resolution number 10732 has been approved by the ANBank early this afternoon. David said the polled body may calibrate the guidelines to realign with the existing alert level.
Considering that during that time that it was promulgated, stricter pa po talaga and mas mataas po yung ating alert level noon. So as nabanggit nyo nga po, na bumaba na yung alert level natin ngayon, the guidelines will somehow be aligned na po dun sa ating existing alert level, sir.
Several candidates have complained about the Comelec's resolution numbers 10730 and 10732, which prohibit the candidates from shaking hands, hugging, kissing, going arm in arm, and having selfies taken with their supporters in line with COVID health safety protocols. The resolution also requires candidates to secure a permit from the Comelec Campaign Committee before applying for a mayor's permit for their campaign activities. The Comelec permit must be secured within 72 hours to ensure that it will not be a super spreader event. According to Director David, the whole resolution will be reviewed.
The plan to revisit po, it's the entire resolution po. So, ang i-review po yung lahat ng provisions nun. It's not limited to like in-person lang or yung pong pag-conduct ng meetings, but lahat po titignan.
Despite this, she clarified that the existing new normal campaign rules is still in effect until a new resolution will be released by the poll body. And that is our update. Back to you, Will.
Yes, thank you, Nel Maribohok, reporting live.
Presidential hopeful and Vice President Leni Robredo welcomes the order from the High Court halting the implementation of Operation Baklas of the Commission on Elections. This report will tell us why. Presidential candidate and Vice President Leni Robredo hopes that the guidelines in putting up campaign materials and private properties will be clarified soon. This as she welcomed a temporary restraining order issued by the Supreme Court on the Operation Baklas of the Commission on Elections. For the Vice President, it is important to address the issue once and for all to ensure the fairness of the elections and the poll body.
So very welcome yung TRO na sana at as soon as possible time ma-clarify na ano ba talaga yung parameters. Sana hindi totoo na targeted tayo, although marami tayo mga volunteers na ganun yung paniniwala dahil sa nakikita nila on the ground.
Earlier, some supporters of Robredo questioned before the SC the removal of campaign paraphernalia in private properties and volunteer headquarters. Meanwhile, Robredo is banking on the professionalism and fairness of the newly appointed officials of Comelec. President Duterte recently appointed Serbisyong Pangarungan as the new chairperson of the poll body, while lawyers George Garcia and Amy Neri have been added to the roster of Comelec commissioners. Garcia said he will inhibit from cases involving his former clients. The election lawyer represented various prominent political figures, including Bongbong Marcos Jr. during the 2016 electoral protests against Robredo.
Yung confidence ng tao sa eleksyon, nakabase sa kung gaano ka-unbiased yung Comelec. Nakahinge doon yung ating tiwala na tumitiwala tayo na yung mga bagong mga na-appoint ay hindi hahayaan na magiging bahagi sila kung yung biases nila will take into play.
Today, the Team Robredo Pangilinan caps off its Caraga region leg of their campaign trail. The Robredo ticket will be heading to Romblon tomorrow. Horidin Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Presidential candidate Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos and Vice Presidential candidate Sara Duterte Carpio visited the provinces of Abra and Kalinga today. During Marcos's speech, the BBM Sara unit team vows to support small businesses as they recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The campaign manager of Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso and running mate Dr. Willie Ong meanwhile belies claims that supporters attending the Isko Willie campaign rallies were paid. Campaign manager Lito Banayo assures all supporters are organic. Presidential candidate Calio de Guzman claims that the new Comelec commissioners are midnight appointees. According to the labor leader, the president of the country should not appoint Comelec commissioners, adding that a multi-sectoral body should make the decisions.
As the country faces challenges amid the rising fuel prices, the Lacson-Soto tandem suggests to review the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion law, or Train Law 2, in hopes of lessening its impact. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
Presidential candidate Panfilo Lacson and Vice Presidential candidate Vicente Soto III believes that the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion, or Train Law 2, is encompassing. Train Law 2 provides a time period when to suspend taxes on products including fuel. Lacson says deadlines should be removed.
Sa akin, kung magkakaroon special session, gusto namin revisit na lang yung sa Train 2 eh. Huwag na lagyan ng time frame. I-open-ended na lang yung wala na yung mag-expire ng December 2020 or 2022. Kasi hindi natin unpredictable na talaga ng presyo na langis.
Several lawmakers are calling on President Rodrigo Duterte to declare a state of economic emergency to allow local government units to use their calamity fund in hopes to lessen the crippling effect of the rising fuel prices. The Lacson-Soto tandem agrees, however, it should properly be reviewed by the executive branch. They reiterate that immediate solution is necessary to help our fellow men in facing this looming crisis.
Bottom line, mahirapan na yung mga oil companies, mahirapan na yung gobyerno. Pero dapat yung mga mahihirap nating mga kababayan, huwag nang mahirapan.
Meanwhile, Partido Reforma's standard bearer also calls on the Department of Energy to increase oil stockpiling in case the rising fuel prices worsen.
Dapat i-monitor nila yung stockpile. Dapat nga ngayong nagkagyera, dapat nung bago pa nagkagyera, inauthorize nila yung mga oil companies na mag-stockpile na mas marami para mapagandaan.
The Lacson-Soto tandem had a courtesy call with Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto earlier today. Mayor Vico did not officially endorse anyone. However, the Lacson-Soto team says their platforms do not differ with what Mayor Vico wants for Pasig City.
I'm very much aware of yung sitwasyon ni Mayor Vico na nasabi na niya noong bayan at nasabi rin niya sa amin na ayaw niyang, he did not want to involve himself in national politics and was concentrating in Pasig.
Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The new Commission on Elections, or Comelec Chairman, assures to be impartial for any possible issue that may arise and in the upcoming 2022 elections. This is amid the criticisms against the poll body. Dante Amento explains why.
Comelec Chairman Pangarungan stresses the aim to strengthen the poll body to perform their mandate. And as they work, they will remember that they owe this service to the Filipinos. Their most important mandate is to preserve the sanctity of the votes and the independence of the Commission. Thus, he assures to be impartial in performing his duties as head of the Commission.
I stand before you today as a defender of democracy, who will be independent and conscientious in giving life to the fundamental freedom of suffrage. To accentuate my stance for impartiality or independence, I solemnly talk my oath of office before the highest magistrate of the land, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Pangarungan added they will protect the Constitution in every decision and program they will undertake. During his tenure, Pangarungan says he would prioritize or maximize the benefits of their employees. Meanwhile, Commissioner Amy Neri also believes that the trust and confidence of the Filipinos will repose to the Commission. This is amid criticisms or issues thrown to the poll body.
I would like to thank all for the warm welcome. Indeed, these are the times wherein the Comelec is being put in the spotlight. I want to make it clear that amidst all the issues thrown towards the Commission, we will advocate and ensure that we will have an honest, fair, and free conduct of elections.
Chairman Pangarungan, Commissioners George Erwin Garcia and Amy Neri joined the unbanked session today. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, the United States of America and most of its European allies proceed on banning Russian oil imports despite some allies disagreeing on the latest sanctions. Marvin Finn will tell us why live. Yes, Marvy, go ahead. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked the US and British leaders for planning to ban oil imports from Russia as a signal to stop waging war and seize income flow to Russia. However, several leaders, including Germany, the Netherlands, and even Ukrainian Deputy Minister Alexander Novak, disagree, saying that this will lead to catastrophic consequences for the global market. Novak added that European consumers will be most affected by this ban, having 40% gas and 30% oil imports from Russia. U.S. President Biden contested this, saying that the U.S. oil production is enough to replace that of Russia's.
We're moving forward with this ban, understanding that many of our European allies and partners may not be in a position to join us. The United States produces far more oil domestically than all the European countries combined. In fact, we're a net exporter of energy. So we can take this step when others cannot.
Biden and his administration are prepared for the inevitable consequences this will have in the near future. But the U.S. president is adamant on inflicting more pain on the Russian president and his wage on war. At the moment, the priority is to provide Ukraine with additional anti-tanks, anti-armor weapons, and coastal defense support to further slow down Russia's advance. Muriel? Marvy, are there other businesses that decided to cut off their trades with Russia amidst the war on Ukraine? And what is the impact to their employees? Marielle, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Starbucks, and General Electric all announced suspension in business trades with Russia. Despite closing restaurants and halting supply deliveries, employees will continue to get paid with essential equipment still being supplied. Back to you, Marielle. Thank you, Marvidal Finn, reporting live. After After shutting its international border since March 2020, Malaysia will now be welcoming tourists from all over the world starting from the 1st of April. Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob said on Tuesday that the government will be allowing fully vaccinated travelers entry into the country without quarantine. Tourists will need to produce a negative PCR test 2 days before arrival and are required to take a rapid antigen test 24 hours after entry. Malaysian nationals who have been barred from leaving the country can also resume overseas travel next month as travel agreements with other countries including Brunei, Thailand, Indonesia, and Singapore are underway. According to Mr. Yaakob, restrictions on business operating hours, gatherings, social distancing, travel will also be lifted as the country begins to transition to the endemic phase of the COVID-19. In the United States, COVID-19 antiviral drugs have been ordered by in-pharmacy clinics, with some sites planning to offer the treatment within days for free. Joselito Liquido will give us the details live. Yes, Joselito, good evening.
Good evening, Muriel. The rollout of free antiviral medicines through the Test to Treat program revealed by the White House last week is now underway. Residents in the U.S. can access the free medicines by visiting one-stop centers that give free COVID-19 testing and prescribe free antiviral medicines on the spot if they tested positive for COVID. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has licensed the 2 antiviral drugs for treating COVID-19 at home: Paxlovid from Pfizer for patients over the age of 12 and Molnupiravir from Merck for adults. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, this program is accessible to hundreds of locations around the country, including pharmacies with clinics, certified health centers, and long-term care institutions. Muriel, patients can expect the antiviral medicines to arrive at some sites later this week. Meanwhile, the Federal Treat to Test website that will help people find nearby sites that participating in the program is expected to launch in mid-March. Mariel?
Thank you, Joselito Liquido, for that live report. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Mariela Toza reporting live from Perth, Australia. Good evening.
Good news for motorists. Amid the fuel price surge, a fuel company will implement a price rollback on its diesel and gasoline products. In an advisory, Petrogas said its stations nationwide will roll back diesel by 5 pesos and 85 centavos per liter and gasoline by 3 pesos and 60 centavos per liter effective March 10 to 13. The price adjustments will take effect at 6 a.m. on March 10. The company said the move aims to minimize the impact of rising oil prices on customers. And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 25, verse 15. It says, "By long forbearing is a prince persuaded, and a soft tongue breaketh the bone." And those are the reasons behind the news, March 9, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Hardin Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.